Underground mining is an essential part of our economy and provides us with minerals and ores we use every day. Salt, gypsum, trona, and potash are used as fertilizers, glass, soap, water treatment, ceramics, and many other chemical compounds. By far the largest segment of mine material is coal. Coal is located worldwide. It can be found on every continent in over 70 countries, with the biggest reserves in the USA, China, Russia.
A year ago, the tunnel we walked through was solid coal. The tunnel is 5 to 7 feet high and 20 feet across.
Okay. Are you hearing that?
You can hear the coal's ominous snap, crackle, and pop caused by the enormous weight of the mountain above us pressing down on the coal seam.
Nice piece of coal.
That's it.
The tunnel is so long that miners don't walk to work. They squeeze into squat little rail cars called man trips for a 20-minute commute that feels less like Disneyland and more like a ride into hell. The miners we met seem proud of the fact that coal generates half the country's electricity.
When I'm in Disney World, I tell my kids, James River Coal is supplying for all these rides.
On both sides of the tracks, we saw rocks that had fallen from the ceiling. The black coal walls of the tunnel had been sprayed with crushed limestone to control the amount of coal dust in the air.
I don't think people have the slightest idea what goes into building a mine. I also find it amazing that you did all this in a year and a half. It's incredible.
There's enough coal in this mine to keep digging for another 15 years.
Our wealth of minerals means that mining has brought employment, economic growth and development to South Africa. But we pay a price. In this lesson, we will explore some of the negative effects that mining industry has had on the environment and consider what can be done about this. Mining and the processes used to extract minerals from the ore damage our environment in a number of ways. Changes to the land itself are clear. Even where mining happens underground, crushed rock is dumped after the valuable minerals have been extracted from it. Dumps are really ugly features of the landscape, and they are found all over our gold, coal and other mining areas. The land can be rehabilitated to some extent. Could you tell us about the main ways in which the mining industry impacts negatively on the environment?
The process of mining inherently is an interference with the natural environment. Initially there would be a shaft going down into the earth and then horizontal shafts to access the mineral bearing ore, and in the process of bringing that solid material out from the bowels of the earth to the surface, you've got your first major opportunity for disturbance of the natural environment. The disturbance to the earth itself, the solid earth, the cavities that we create, which can create earth tremors, sinkholes. The disturbances of the earth include what we call subsidence. If these shafts underneath the mine are quite close to the surface, there's a possibility that the surface itself could collapse and cause surface damage. This is particularly so in coal mines, which are generally shallower than gold mines. And if you fly over an area of previously mined by coaling, it looks like a dimple, like a golf ball, where little squares of the earth have sunk down, sometimes up to 2 or 3 meters. The other disturbance to the surface of the earth can occur in coal mining if the underground coal catches fire. If you've got a burning fire underneath consuming the coal, it can eventually allow the earth to collapse. The material brought to the surface is a residue, which we call mine tailings, which can be either mine dumps or slime dams. So the prime environmental concern then is managing this huge pile of solid waste which is generated from the mining process. Now the solid waste can interact both with the water, with the air, and leak the solid material out into the environment. So I'd now like to turn to the aspect of air pollution impacts of mining, and that can be the gases from the underground fires, and if that is near a community, it can be very serious. That dust is often made of silica, which is not a very nice form of dust. It can cause damage to the lungs, so that is a further environmental damage, if you like, the damage to human health. And the good news is that if the mine manages the process properly by spraying with water or chemicals to keep the dust down, it is possible, even while they're mining, to reduce the nuisance. And of course, what do you do with the leftovers from the mining? Oh, it's got to go somewhere else. Yep. So they're now making new mega dumps. As we have mega stores and mega malls, we now have mega dumps, but these mega dumps are properly controlled, and as they build the dump up, they plant new grass on it and keep the top surface wet, and this largely reduces the dust. But there are other problems with the dumps. For instance, cyanide is a matter of concern. They use cyanide to extract gold, and there's a little bit of cyanide left in the sand when it is put onto the dump, and that cyanide can evaporate into the atmosphere. It's a very low quantity, but people are right to be concerned about it. Similarly, bringing this material up from the surface of the earth brings other heavy metals, such as mercury, to the surface, and there's currently a lot of scientific interest about the whole cycle of mercury, because mercury concentrates into biological systems, eventually into fish, and if humans eat the fish, then the mercury gets into our bodies as well.
Every time one of these mines has come along, they've always promised that this time will be different. No mine ever predicts that they're going to pollute. If they predicted that, they wouldn't get a permit.
Over the past 100 years, there have been thousands of hard rock mines that have been opened in the western United States. And a substantial percentage of those are abandoned now. There is nobody taking care of them except for the default, which is the government and the taxpayers. Some of those still have acid mine drainage problems even after decades since they've closed. And the cost of cleaning them up has been estimated into the billions of dollars.
We've had neighbors on either side of Minnesota, in South Dakota, in Wisconsin, have disastrous pollution problems from their mining, hard rock mining experiences, where aquatic systems are wiped out and the fish are killed, and there's pollution that's emanating from these mines, and in many cases it can last for hundreds of years.
Several colleagues of mine, Jim Kuipers and Ann Maist, did a study back in 2005, and what they found was that if you had a metal sulfide mine located in an area near surfaced water and groundwater, which is what most of the upper Midwest is like, in about 80% or more of those cases, you had a violation of water quality.
A great example is a mine in South Dakota called the Brome mine that operated from the late 1980s to the late 1990s. The developers of that mine claimed that the sulfide ores, there was only about 1% sulfide in the ore that they would be mining, and therefore that was too low a level for any acid that might be created from exposure to air and water to have any impact on the streams. They were wrong. The acid mine drainage from that mine totally destroyed a stream in the vicinity of the mine that the mine drained into.